Hello, everyone. I'm Father Tom Morgan, and it is the weekend of May 22nd and 23rd, 2021, and we are celebrating this Sunday Pentecost. And this weekend's message is entitled, No to the Saying, I'd Rather Fight Than Switch. Some of you will remember a commercial. I won't talk too much about the commercial, but they had a motto, and the motto always features somebody with a black eye, and the motto was, I'd rather fight than switch. You know, as we celebrate Pentecost this weekend, that motto is the exact opposite of what the Holy Spirit does in our lives and in the world, and what we are called to as disciples of Jesus Christ. We have been formed regularly at Mass in Eucharistic prayer number 2 when we hear the priest pray this simple little prayer. We may be gathered into one by the Holy Spirit. That's what the Holy Spirit is striving to do in us, through us, and in our world, that we may be one. What our lives are about and what the Holy Spirit does can be seen in the readings from the Acts of the Apostles this weekend on the day of Pentecost. We hear in Acts 2:6, at this sound they gathered in a large crowd, but they were confused because each one heard them speaking in his own language. So the Holy Spirit is bringing unity. They understand, is bringing understanding. And that disposition, that action of the Holy Spirit is the disposition that we are called to in our relationships with one another. There's a beautiful teaching in the Catechism in number 738 that says, all of us who have received one and the same Spirit, that is the Holy Spirit, are in a sense blended together with one another and with God. For if Christ together with the Father's and his own Spirit comes to dwell in each of us, though we are many, still the Spirit is one and undivided. He binds together the spirits of each and every one of us. So how do we see the Spirit lived out in a practical way? Well, one of the things that the Catechism talks about and that we often struggle with is rash judgment. When talking about rash judgment, the Catechism in number 2478 says this: to avoid rash judgment, everyone should be careful to interpret insofar as possible his neighbor's thoughts, words, and deeds in a favorable way. Every good Christian ought to be more ready to give a favorable interpretation to another's statement than condemn it. But if he cannot do so, let him ask how the other understands it. So the Spirit is leading us to listening to one another, to understanding, and to an attitude, again, as we've already said, in the spirit of the Mass, that says, we may be gathered into one by the Holy Spirit, not I'd rather fight than switch. That's not the spirit of a disciple of Jesus. So let's also consider Paul's pointing the way in Philippians 2:4. What does Paul say? Each looking out not for his own interests, but also everyone for those of others. So brothers and sisters, I would say as we contemplate and seek to live a motto, let it never be, I'd rather fight than switch. But yes, to what we hear in the evening Eucharistic prayer, we may be gathered into one by the Holy Spirit. That's what we're about, not the other. Mark 5:36, fear is useless. What is needed is trust. I'm pulling for you. We're all in this together. God bless you, friends.